Okay, sup gamers, been a while. Now I've been dead for the past few weeks because I was in Taipei for Taipei Game Show. Now lots of great stuff happened there. Ate a lot of food, met a lot of nice people, and most importantly, a lot of people came to play my game and gave very valuable feedback. And that feedback ties into today's subject. Today I'll be talking about a reworked harpoon and a brand new weapon, the Anchor. Alright, let's begin. Alrighty, let's talk about the harpoon first. Now during TGS I got a lot of good feedback on our harpoon since it was the only weapon in the game at the time, and because of that feedback, I reworked it a bit. Previously the harpoon was extremely simple. Your left click is a basic stat, while your ability is a hook that drags light targets towards you and pulls yourself towards heavier objects. People did like that part, which is great. However, the problem is that sometimes it feels counterintuitive to close the gap as you might take damage from the enemy that you just hooked in. To counteract that, you are now granted some invincibility upon a successful hook. Okay, now for the fun stuff. The harpoon can now latch onto enemies. When you latch onto an enemy, you'll be tethered to them. As long as the tether holds, the enemy will drag you along. This basically lets you hitch a ride on creatures that are fleeing or chasing something else. Now this has actually been pretty fun to play with, and it causes some wacky situations to happen, which I like. The only problem that emerged is that if you latch onto something that travels very fast, you can just kind of fly across the entire map, which is a little overpowered. So I just made it so that the tether breaks after the victim moves a certain distance. On top of that, weapons will now have their own passives. The harpoon's passive is pretty simple. Bloodthirsty makes it so that you do double damage against enemies at full health. Pretty self-explanatory. This complements well with the harpoon because the hook part of the ability no longer does damage. This means that if you are the one to engage with your hook, you'll be dealing extra damage. So yeah, works pretty well. Now let's talk about the Anchor. The Anchor is a swing weapon. Swing weapons are generally a bit slower but cover a larger area. This especially applies for the Anchor. As you can see from the Anchor's stats and description, it is extremely slow. However, it's also extremely hard-hitting. Your swings will hit like a truck, dealing loads of damage as well as knocking your victims all the way to Narnia. This is basically gonna be your brain-dead brute weapon, which is complemented by the passive Iron Will. Iron Will makes it so that you do not take any knockback whatsoever. So yeah, just keep swinging. Now let's get to the actual fun part, the Anchor's ability, Crashing Tides. Crashing Tides is an extremely potent ability that grants you some much needed mobility. Upon casting, you will throw your anchor which will slowly begin to accelerate. As the anchor travels, you will be dragged along with it. While you're traveling, you can use your mouse or controller to steer the anchor. The steering is somewhat slow, so I would recommend you to only use this ability if you're far away from a target or if you're already facing it. If at any point you collide with an enemy while traveling, they will take some damage and you will stop. But the fun part comes in when you land a clean hit. In order to get a clean hit with Crashing Tides, the collision must be head-on, meaning your target must be nearly directly in front of you. Upon landing a clean hit, an explosion will occur which deals good damage and tons of knockback. This can be a lifesaver when you have tons of enemies chasing you. It can also just be a great way to take some pressure off of yourself. One thing to note is that the size of the explosion is proportional to your speed. This means that you should give the Anchor some time to accelerate before hitting something. Overall, the Anchor is a pretty easy to use weapon with a very potent and fun ability. Future weapons will also be designed to cover different types of playstyles, so very fast, very slow, very aggressive, very defensive. But that's for the future. As of now, that's pretty much it for the devlog. In the coming weeks, I'll be working on a revamp for certain things such as Netflix Fight and some other interesting stuff. If you want to stay up to date, feel free to follow me on Twitter or join my Discord below. Oh yeah, one more thing. The shopkeeper will now throw a rock at you if you keep hitting them. So yeah, don't do that. Okay, that's actually it. Bye bye.